Hello and welcome to this review of the Sony HX90. Now the Sony HX90 is, in my opinion, a really undervalued and really good value compact camera. So here it is, and you can see it's really quite small. It's really nice and light. It does feel a bit plasticky, but you can get it for under £300 and under $300. And you might be thinking, well, why would I bother with a compact camera? Well, this has an awful lot of advantages, and it's small enough that you can put it in your pocket, but also it has a 30 times zoom. This has a full frame equivalent focal length of 700mm, which is just fantastic, which means you can just leave your zoom lenses at home. So if I turn it on, you can see that the lens can zoom out. You can see here, I can get it to 720mm focal length. Anything past that encounters a digital zoom. So with optical zoom, we can get up to 720mm focal length equivalent. This does have the ability to shoot in full control mode. So we've got manual, shutter priority, aperture priority program. We've got Sony's two intelligent auto modes here, which I must say are quite good actually. We've got a movie mode and we've got a pano mode. The other key thing that's really good is this pull-out viewfinder. So we can see here we've got this viewfinder and it pops out, and you have to just pull this out like an older Sony RX100, pop it down and it turns the camera off. Now that can be customized in the menu as well. This also comes with a flash, a little pop-up flash. It won't be terribly powerful, but it will give some flash power if you need it in low light. Here we have grip. Now this feels plasticky compared to the rest, which is a combination of plastic and metal. We've got our lens, which fully retracts. Here we have an AF illumination. On the back we have a screen that flips up. It doesn't flip down and it's not touchscreen, but it does have this selfie mode where if you flip it up, it goes into selfie mode and it gives you a countdown and you can see yourself. What's also very good about this camera is it has face detect. So this is great for selfies, this is great for family moments. At the front we have this wheel which controls either shutter speed or aperture or other functions. And here on the back, we have a small wheel here. Now, this back does feel quite plasticky and it does feel quite cheap. This feels fine on the front though. Charging is via micro USB and you can charge on the go, which is fabulous. This camera also has near-field communication, but I don't have that within my smartphone. Now you might be saying, what's the point of carrying around this camera when you can just use a smartphone? And you're quite right. This is smaller than your average smartphone. It's certainly a bit thicker than your average smartphone, but nothing will have the zoom range that this has. This has a 30 times optical zoom, which no DSLR is going to have, no smartphone is going to have either. So you can see here, this is on its widest setting, and I got quite a lot of features in on a sunny day, and then I zoomed in across the river using 720mm focal length, and you can see it's not the best of picture when you zoom in, but you do have that ability to zoom. You do lose quite a bit of detail when you zoom in. At the widest end you can see we have an aperture of f3.5, and at the telephoto end the smallest aperture we can get is 6.4. right at the telephoto end, and we're obviously going to get something in between as we move up and down the zoom range. So right at the end of the zoom range you will be encountering very high apertures. The other thing is this only goes up to an aperture of 8. Now that's understandable with a small camera, and one thing I've noticed is On a sunny day, it's quite easy to overexpose in video mode, simply because it only goes up to f8. ISO goes as low as 80. And I also think that the auto ISO is very handy on this camera. It's a very handy feature on this camera. Shutter speed goes down to 1/2000th of a second. So we do have a lot of control with this camera. We can control the drive mode, we can control the flash, we can control the focus mode, the focus area, the ISO, the metering, the white balance. We can control HDR and highlights. I'm not really fussed about creative styles. I'm not really fussed about picture effects. We have full manual control, you could say. The only downside to this camera is it's a JPEG only camera. This camera does not shoot in RAW. So being a Sony camera, it has a very complex menu. In terms of recording video, we can record in MP4, which gives us 28 megabits per second bitrate, and we can record in AVC HD. Personally, I really dislike the codec AVC HD, but this XAVCS HD is a really good codec. Behaves essentially the same as MP4, and that goes up to 50 megabits per second. So this is my normal video shooting mode for this camera. The other really good thing about this camera is it has stabilisation, and it has 3 levels of stabilisation. With Intelligent Active, you do get a slight crop because it does crop in on your image. Active and Standard it doesn't, but Intelligent Active is very good for keeping video and stills steady while taking shots. If you're a video shooter, you're going to be interested in this feature, which is to move between PAL and NTSC. Now, PAL is 25 frames per second or 50 frames per second, and NTSC is 30 or 60. Now, you can move between these two frame rates. However, it will restart the camera. So I don't know why it does this, but it does at least allow you to move from one to the other. So here you'll see we're in PAL and we can move to NTSC, but it will require a reboot of the camera. What's really nice is we have quite a lot of settings for Smile and Face Detect. We can face detect registered faces, we can face detect faces, and we can take shutters when the camera detects a smile, which is immensely useful. This memory section allows us to save settings as a preset, and then we can access it through this MR mode up here. Now, in one of my videos, I show you how to do this, and I talk about the best settings for this camera. So to summarize, I think this is a great travel camera. If you're out on safari or out on holiday or out with your family, you can take this as your one camera, and it's probably going to cover most of the focal lengths you would want, and you don't have to cart around a huge DSLR. In fact, this camera itself is putting my Micro Four Thirds 40 to 150 zoom lens out of commission, really. I'd much rather take this because I've got a much bigger zoom range. It's much smaller. It's only a slight drop in quality as far as I'm concerned. So this is a great camera.